Open mic time now. Tony Casillas here, the former Dallas Cowboy, College Football Hall of Famer. A tight opening loss for Dallas. Dak Prescott was not perfect in his debut, but he was pretty good, considering it was his first start. What did you think as you watched him?
Well, I thought the first series, he was really able to execute this offensive game plan. Kind of put him in manageable situations, not make it too difficult, but he did make some really good throws. And so I like the game plan. It wasn't an offense you can expect that he's going to be a Tony Romo offense. We're going to high-risk throws, but obviously using his legs out of the pocket and be able to hit some of those crossing routes. Very impressive with that. And one thing that was really good about the first drive is that he was able to target a lot of receivers. And it wasn't just Des Bryant, it was everyone across the board. And I think the most disappointing thing was right there, having a chance to be able to score and wasn't able to execute the touchdown.
And that's the thing. I mean, you look at Dak, and he'll obviously they'll open up more of the playbook as this season goes on. I hope they try to use his versatility and his ability to run the ball a little bit more too. But what he has to be wondering is, okay, now I'm in the NFL. Now I've got these top flight wide receivers who are really going to help me out in these games. And I think while he showed poise, some of these veteran teammates, especially his wide receivers, really struggled. Could you believe what you were seeing and hearing when the Terrence Williams play occurred late and he failed to get out of bounds?
I was. It's like football 101 as a receiver, especially you got to know the circumstances. You got to know you got one play, you got to get out of bounds. It was just a really stupid play by a veteran player, and you cannot ill afford to have those type of mistakes. And saying that, I don't know if Dan Bailey could have kicked the 65-yard line, but at least give your offense an opportunity to see or make a decision whether to try to attempt a field goal. But yes, it's very disappointing when you have veteran players. You just hit on it, Mike. This offense is supposed to help Dak Prescott. In essence, it hurt him today. And especially a team that had an opportunity maybe at the end to try to kick a winning field goal. And that play right there by Cole Beasley, you cannot do that. He had 2 drops today. I know that everyone's going to bracket and cover Des Bryant because he's ultimately the biggest weapon. We know he's the biggest weapon on this football team, and he's a go-to guy. But the easy throws, the Cole Beasley, those type of, the Terrence Williams not getting out of bounds. And there's a reason why Des Bryant only had 1 catch today, right there, double coverage. And that's, your game plan is to stop the run, and then Dak Prescott is going to try to go to his go-to guy, and he cannot make those throws that only Des Bryant's going to be able to catch, because sometimes Des Bryant doesn't execute those plays.
And even in double coverage, you saw that in the slow-mo. Yeah. Des still had that ball in his chest, and it's a play that could have been made. And again, it becomes even more important now with a rookie quarterback that the veterans lift this guy up. You just can't afford to have situations like this today in close games.
Yeah, and I really think that you got to ask yourself, after the first game, you've seen what Dak Prescott has done in a regular season game. Maybe open up the playbook now, give him a little bit, and attack the vertical part of the field, because that's where defenses fear you. It's a lot easier to keep guys around the line of scrimmage, but when you're double covering someone like Des Bryant and other guys like Cole Beasley or Terrence Williams aren't making the plays, that's when that creates a lot of problems.
All right, let's go to the running game now. So much anticipation regarding the debut of Dak, obviously, but also of Ezekiel Elliott, the rookie out of Ohio State. He had a touchdown, but just 51 carries or 51 yards, I should say, on 20 carries today. And Alfred Morris maybe was the more effective back at times. But first, Zeke, what'd you think? What'd you learn about this kid today? What does he still have to learn?
Well, 20 carries on 50 yards. What's that? I mean, I can do my Oklahoma math, and that's 2-point-something yards per carry. That's not getting it done. But the offensive line, if this is going to be their identity, which we heard about this last year, the year before, how good they are. You got to give the New York Giants credit. They went in the offseason, they spent money on the defensive front, but there was not much room there. Now, Alfred Morris, I'm more inclined. I think people underestimate and don't really appreciate what he can do as far as seeing the vision that a veteran player can. And we saw 6 carries for 35 yards. So there is some upside there. Ezekiel Elliott, it's like Dak Prescott. You cannot expect as a rookie to light it on fire and rush for 6 yards per carry. This isn't the preseason.
It's funny you mentioned preseason. It may have been your old teammate Nate Newton who mentioned on the air on Twitter today the fact that Zeke didn't have nearly as much work at camp as Alfred Morris did. Does that kind of thing sort of manifest itself now? Maybe a guy that just has had that much time behind this offensive line in practice.
Well, it's the speed of the game, Mike. It's in a regular season where the tempo is turned up a lot more in the preseason. Guys are just trying to get through the preseason. So I don't think he had the work that he needed. But again, it's an adjustment. And also, you got to give credit again. New York Giants, there was nowhere for him to run. And they made him more of an east and west runner. And he's an inside the tackles, outside, running inside, and running hard. And he was never able to was never able to run downhill like he likes to run.
I was a little surprised we didn't see Alfred Morris on the final drives when instead we saw Zeke Elliott.
Yeah.
It seemed like Morris had a little bit more of the hot hand. I wonder if Garrett and Linehan maybe would go a different direction in another game with those two guys playing the way they were today. Let's talk about the Dallas defense a little bit. Similar story to what we've seen, in past years, where they allow 20 points to a pretty good offense, which I don't think is too bad.
It's really good.
In some ways, they don't get stops when they need them, but in other ways, they got the ball back for their offense late. I have a hard time blaming the defense too much for this one, given what the expectations are for this defense.
Considering the expectation for an offense like the New York Giants, and look at the receiving core they have, I thought a lot of times the Cowboy defense played about as well as you'd expect, considering no one's given them a chance. The no-name defense, a lot of players gone. But I thought as a whole, they played pretty well, good enough to win. Now, I will say this and be critical. There was that one series on the last drive the Giants had the ball. We're going to run the football. That's what the Giants said. Now, you're going to have to stop us, and the Cowboys defense were not able to step up and get them off the field.
The Cowboys lose to the Giants by a point at AT&T Stadium. I know it was a moving scene out there, the 9/11 observance as the game was getting
It really was,
started.
Mike. It was when to see President Bush and the former First Lady come out on the field for the coin toss. I mean, there was not. It was so quiet, and you could hear a pin drop. And for me, it hit home hard, and really appreciate what 9/11 represents. And it's glad to report that everyone was standing up on the sidelines and respecting our flag. It was a great memory. Besides the game, it was a great day at the stadium.
I know you got a big college football game coming up at your house, in that you are a Sooner and your wife
is divided house.
Buckeye,
yes.
And they battle this coming weekend. The tailgate parties start later tonight already, or when is that?
Not yet. Probably tomorrow. It's a week-long event. But I got Oklahoma upsetting the Buckeyes.
Oh, what a shot.
I'm just kidding.
That's a stunner. No.
Oklahoma State, Ohio State, I think wins this one.
You're picking the Buckeyes.
And I'm not saying that just so my wife will not leave me.
All right.
I'm very genuine about that pick.
All right, Tony Casillas, thank you very much for joining us as always.
As always, great, Mike.
Thanks, man.